Like I'm an underdog. Like I come from Littleton and I had a real innate desire to win and give my best and be the best that I could be for myself and also part of a team, and had a bit of vision, I suppose, for the game, and that sort of become a bit of my trademark as a 12, being able to create space and put other people in space and manage the game as a second pivot. I retired at 30. Like I always thought, like a bit like Peter Pan, you live forever and play the game forever, That was a tough last year. Just the ups and downs, the emotional ups and downs of getting the body right and then breaking down again and getting it right, and then you're looking at your future. Can I sign another contract? Am I going to go back and have a crack at the World Cup in New Zealand? But that conversation was an important one for me and helped me realise that we are just guardians of the jersey.
What a lad, what a lad, what a lad, what an absolute lad.
What a lad. Well, today I'm lucky enough to be joined by a Crusader and All Black legend who has gone on to become an absolute champion coach. His career started with Canterbury and the Crusaders, where he made an instant impact and became an All Black at just 21 years old. After 7 years playing for his country, he moved over to the UK to play for Leicester, where he became a club favourite. Post-playing, he smoothly transitioned into coaching, where he's coached the teams such as the Crusaders, Leicester, Samoa, the Highlanders, Moana Pasifika, and he is currently with the Fijian international side. He's done so much in his 46 years on this planet, and of course he is a massive, massive lad. It is the great Aaron Mauger. Welcome, mate.
Cheers, mate. What an intro.
What an intro, and what a studio. You're the first one to ever have a podcast in this new setup at Red 9 Studios. What do you think?
It's probably a reflection of all the good work you're doing, mate. Love your podcast, and it's an absolute pleasure to be on and be the first one in the new studio. So thanks for having me on.
Mate, looking forward to it, because you've done sort of so much in your career. Like I said, like we've listed out all those teams. You've played all around the world. You've coached all around the world, so many different teams, environments. How do you sort of look back on your career and what you've achieved?
I'll look back with a lot of gratitude. Feel very fortunate, to be part of all those sides, and the people along the way. Had some amazing experiences. Like anybody in life, you experience the ups and downs, and the game doesn't always love you back, but it certainly created so many amazing experiences, so many extreme highs that I feel really grateful for. So, just really grateful.
Yeah, well, you've definitely had highs and lows, like every player has, but you've seemed to have had some really big ones, obviously with the coaching. Playing, you've had some massive highs in your game, but you also, like you mentioned, some of those lows have been pretty brutal, coaching stints and the way you've had to retire and all these little things. So you've definitely been through it all.
Yeah, it's life, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think, it's probably magnified being in the public eye, but people go through challenges in normal life as well. It's just that everything that we do as a professional sports person or coach is in the public eye. So it's certainly magnified, but you learn from those experiences, and just like you celebrate the highs when you're on top, you work through the lows and you surround yourself with good people, and there's so many good people in the game that help you get through, and people outside of the game too to lean on. So it's certainly just a part of life, and like I say, it's certainly had more highs than lows and more positive experiences in the game.
Yeah, it's such a cool mindset. Well, I'm keen to go through your journey from the start, and I know you're born in Christchurch, grew up in Littleton. What was that like for you?
Oh, mate, I love Littleton. Like, it's still home for me.
Yeah.
I haven't lived there since I was 18 years old, but every time I drive through the tunnel, just get that sense of home. We were lucky enough to build a little batch over in Port Levy, so I still spend a lot of time on the peninsula, and every time I get out on the water and up in the hills, it's just feels like home. It's sort of where I go to ground myself, and especially after you've been away or through the busyness of life, it's a good place to get back to and connect.
Yeah. So growing up, you had, obviously everyone knows your brother Nathan, who was an All Black Crusader, Canterbury player as well. Any other siblings?
I got two brothers.
Two brothers.
So two older brothers. Oldest brother Dion, he's 6 years older than me, and then Nathan's a couple of years older. So we were a little bit closer in age, and sort of most things together as young fellas with a great community of mates. Sort of like a gang of 30 or 40 kids run around most weekends or most days after school, playing any sport and any ball we could get our hands on. Cricket, rugby, bit of ball rush. I spent a lot of time up at the clock tower, probably much to the dismay of the council, had to prune their roses after we've been up there destroying their beautiful flash grounds, or time around the rec ground, kicking goals, or diving off the wharf down in the harbour when you could actually get onto the wharf. So, look, I love my upbringing over there. I think it certainly helped shape me as a person, and also footy. Just I think the opportunities. We grew up tough, some tough kids over there, and some really special people that come out of that community. So, talking about gratitude, certainly grateful for growing up and spending my early childhood over in Littleton.
Yeah, and your love for rugby, was that a passion from as soon as you can remember?
Yeah, definitely, mate. My family were rugby mad. I remember getting up in the morning to watch All Black tests overseas, and remember my old man taking me to some World Cup games in 1987, the first World Cup, and Canterbury games as well. I remember sitting on the bank when Canterbury were doing well and also not so well. I remember walking away from Lancaster Park in tears. I think it was 1990 or 91, and the old man said we're about to get relegated. And I think Canterbury had to go up and beat King Country, and Northern had to beat Taranaki or something for Canterbury to stay in. Unfortunately, they did.
Oh, true.
But I remember, I had some fond memories of going through to Lancaster Park and following the All Blacks. My two uncles both played for the All Blacks as well, Graham and Stephen Bishop.
That's right, yeah.
Graham was actually, I was only 7 or 8 when he first made the All Blacks. So being from a small town probably showed that anything's possible.
Were they from Littleton as well?
Yeah, they were.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So they had a big influence on you, spent a lot of time with them.
Yeah, we idolise them,
Yeah.
You look up to those role models, people in your family, and none of them. My mum was one of 7.
Oh.
So my mother's mother was from Pacific Islands. So she was born in a little island called Rutu in French Polynesia, and she was then whangaed back to Rarotonga and raised in Rarotonga, where half of her family are from as well. So really proud of the Pacific Island roots, and she was a pretty amazing lady as well. So another good mentor.
Yeah. And were you always good? Were you always good at rugby?
I think I was just average growing up in Littleton. I think there were certainly probably more talented, tougher kids over there. I think having some of those role models around was really influential, and probably some of the disciplines we were able to pick up as young kids, wanting to go for runs and that, because the uncle's going for a run or he's dragging you out. Yeah. One of my uncles is actually Steve, had the used to do the post. He was the postman, local postman. So we used to run up the hills with him. He'd run the run when he was playing for Canterbury. He'd run it and take us on the run with him. I had to keep up with him and carry the sack of papers and all that sort of stuff.
How old would you have been?
I reckon we would have been 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
So all those little experiences start to shape your thinking, and a lot of it's not always intentional. Some of it's just by design, or from people showing interest. And
were you always a back?
Mate, I was actually quite a podgy young kid. I enjoyed my food as a young fella, so I always liked to play in the backs. So I always fancied myself as a halfback. Obviously, our uncle was halfback.
Yeah.
I remember one year we played most of my junior rugby at Littleton, and then there's one year we didn't have a team, or Nathan didn't have a team. My older brother was already at Linwood High School playing for Linwood, so Nathan had to go through to Linwood. So the parents thought, we only had one car.
Oh, yeah.
So the parents thought it'd be easier for me to go and play for Linwood as well. So we get through to Linwood, and new coach, and he's looking at me thinking, he could be a proper rocker. So he chucked me in the front row, and I wasn't too keen, and I think I might have squealed my way out of it and ended up playing back in halfback or first 5 later on that season. Yeah. It's a bit dark up there.
So you're built like a front row, but skills of a back.
Yeah, I was always pretty skillful. I think growing up, playing all those sports.
Yeah.
We played softball as kids. We played league. We used to play league on Tuesdays, and play rugby on Saturdays. But pretty much any sport we could play. My brother and I used to make these, put stones and get a bunch of stones and wrap it in newspaper, and then put sellotape around the end if we didn't have a ball, just to make a ball, so we could throw something or kick something around. So sport certainly had a massive influence on our upbringing.
Was that a lot of one-on-one in the backyard, you and Nathan?
A lot of one-on-one. Yeah, Nathan's obviously a little bit bigger, and a couple of years older, so he just used to used to keep me hanging in there. He'd give me the odd win every now and then, and then he'd brutalise me the rest of the time.
Give you a reality check.
Just give me enough to keep me hanging in there. But he was, in terms of our careers, he was hugely influential for me. Like, he was making rep teams and that earlier. So anything that he was sort of doing was setting the bar, and I'm pretty competitive.
Yeah.
So anything that he could do, I'd try and have a crack at it. But you're hugely grateful to his influence on me as a young fella. Certainly inspired the path.
Yeah, and you mentioned he went to Littleton College, but you went to Christchurch Boys, didn't you?
So my older brother went to Linwood.
Linwood.
Nathan got accepted to Christchach Boys through the ballot system.
Oh, yeah.
Might have been a rigged ballot system, I reckon, because he played for the Canterbury primary schools the year before.
Canterbury
so I think they might have filtered out all the decent footy players. Wayne Smith was actually his coach in the Canterbury primary schools.
Oh, far out.
So I remember Nath we went down to Southland, to Invercargill for a tournament. He was in the South Island Primary Schools rugby tournament.
Yeah.
And I was in the league tournament.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I made the South Island Primary Schools league team. Okay. So he was there with the rugby at the time, and I was there with the league. So another good experience. But I actually didn't want to go to Boys High, so he got accepted to Boys High.
Yeah.
Through the ballot, and that certainly opened some doors. I didn't want to go there. I wanted to go to Linwood. That's where my older brother was. That's where a lot of my mates were either going to Linwood or Cathedral College, just through the tunnel a little bit closer. And I was a bit resistant to going to Boys High. So I fought with my mum the whole summer around, I don't want to go over there.
Yeah. So she wanted you to go there.
Yeah, she wanted me to go there. I think she could just see the opportunities, and she was right. But I'm a 12, 13-year-old kid, digging my toes in. Anyway, she won she won the battle, rightly so.
Yeah.
And within 3 days, I was totally brainwashed by the school. It was a great school, great environment, the peer support, the way you're welcomed, school huckers, school songs, the history of the school. You're walking down the corridor, you're seeing photos of All Black legends, New Zealand cricketing legends, other politicians and all sorts, and it captures you. So they did a great day, and within 3 days, I was fully in, and really grateful for that experience. I think of some of the friends, lifelong friends. Actually catching up with a good mate of mine from school tonight for a quiet beer, some steak, eggs, and chips out at the famous Grouse, which is Mitch Drummond's pub in Lincoln.
Yeah, how good.
So we're going to shoot out there and have a catch up with one of those old mates.
Yeah.
But also the mentors and the coaches and just the experiences that I had through the school was huge. So I'd never made a rep rugby team until I went to Boys High. First year in the under-14s at Christchurch Boys High School, made the town team, and sort of started to realise that I might be able to do something with footy.
Yeah, and because you'd made the league team, so was that I was going to ask, like, what made you choose Union over league?
Yeah, probably just more opportunities. I don't even know if we had rugby league at Christchurch Boys at the time. It was a very traditional rugby school. So it's funny, my brother and I always talked about playing league at some stage, going to play in the Winfield Cup or, back, well, that's what it was called back then. The NRL was just the Winfield Cup, and both supporters of the Bears, North Sydney Bears and the Raiders at the time. So we always had an eye on rugby league and always followed it passionately. Nathan actually got an offer from the Cowboys, I think, when he was about 19. He played a New Zealand under-19 game against Australia at the MCG and managed to play pretty well. And Tim Sheen's rung home the next week.
True.
Yeah, he was the coach of, I think it was the Cowboys. It might have been the Crushers, one of those sort of Super League teams at the time, offering him a deal. So we were lucky to keep him in rugby. I think Steve Hansen might have had a little bit to do with that. Pretty persuasive man, Steve Hansen, and managed to convince him to stay.
Yeah. So you didn't make any rep teams, and you make a rep team once you're at Boys High. And then how's your growth? You obviously have massively quick growth to go from that to, I think you made New Zealand Colts 3 years in a row, your first 15. Yeah. You have Canterbury straight out of school. What was the ingredient for that massive growth?
Mate, I think I was just a product of the environment and my upbringing. And like I said before, I played a lot of sports, extremely competitive, so wanted to win. Had a real innate desire to win and give my best and be the best that I could be for myself and also part of a team. So I think pride and having good standards, had a lot to do with that. Being in the school environment, there's expectation that you'd win as well. We didn't actually have the most successful first 15 years. We were sort of up and down. We actually managed to win the championship a couple of years, but we were sort of up and down. It wasn't a great first 15.
Yeah.
I think the year after me went on and I think they lost the final of the top 4 in New Zealand, so they're a much more dominant side. But I think the expectation of being strong and leading the way from the school sort of become a part of my mentality as well. So very fortunate for that. Other than that, mate, I was just playing. I just played because I loved it.
Yeah.
Even when I was injured, I'd try and play, and I just loved getting out on the field and playing footy with my mates. So I left school in 98, and Robbie Deans selected me for the Canterbury side. So I was expecting to play for the Canterbury under-19s. I actually got named in the Canterbury under-19s the year that I left school. I was at Teachers College at the time, trained to be a teacher.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd just been on an under-19 New Zealand tour and an under-21 World Cup, and I come back and I thought I was going to turn up to under-19 training, and then I'll get named in the NPC squad. So it was a bit of a shock. So I'm going into training, and I'm training alongside all these guys that I was on the embankment, at Lancaster Park the year before with all my schoolmates drinking a 24-pack or trying to drink a 24-pack. And now you're rubbing shoulders with these guys,
Yeah.
And so it was pretty surreal. And I remember just being in awe of Toddy Blackadder. He was our captain at the time, and it was pretty special, as an 18-year-old kid, being able to rub shoulders with a guy like Toddy.
Yeah.
He's just been so instrumental in the success of Canterbury and Crusader rugby teams. I think maybe changing the ways a little bit around 94 when he took over as captain, and really enabling younger guys to come in and be themselves and just play the game. I remember I played a couple of games off the bench and still didn't really feel like I belonged there.
Yeah.
Definitely felt like an imposter.
Yeah.
I was tackling 17-year-old kids the year before, and then I remember Isitola Marker coming off the back of one scrum and running over top of me. I thought, this is the big time now. But we played Otago down in Dunedin, and you get to your hotel and you get your room list, and I was sort of looking through the room list, and I see that it was my first start, so I've been named to start.
Yeah.
Robbie was the coach, and Steve Hansen was his assistant, and Robbie had named me to start in that game.
What position were you?
First 5.
Oh, were you?
Running the cutter.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I'd already been given a bit of a growl because Angus Gardner was my school teacher the year before. And now he's my number 7. And I'm telling him what ruck to go to, what ruck to get to and clean. He's looking at me. It's just, how can this young punk be telling me where to go and what to do? But I remember getting named on the side, and it's a big derby, like in those games, Carisbrook was full. So we're going down to Carisbrook, and we fly down there, and you're expecting 15,000 Cantabs to turn up on the trains or the buses, and it was such a big thing. So it was a pretty big occasion for Robbie to select me to start at first 5, calling the shots. Yeah. And get to the Southern Cross Hotel and look at the team sheet, and I'm like, oh no, I'm room with Todd Blackadder. It's going to be a bit embarrassing. So we're sort of dragging my bag up, and I'm the last one to the room, and he's lying there with us on the bed like this already settled in. He knew that I was coming. So it was a setup. And walk in the room, and from the moment that I walked in the room, what he did through that sort of 24 hours, 36 hours to really install confidence in me and let me know that the team had my back and they trust me to do the job, and I'm here for a reason, and all those positive messages. Mate, I remember it like it was just yesterday, just what it did for me. I do belong here, and I'm representing my hometown, and I'm good enough to be here. I went out and we ended up winning the game, and I managed to do okay, and got recognised for that after the game, and Toddy said, right, that's us. So all night he stayed with me. He pretty much led the charge, and I was this young, whippersnapper.
Yeah.
And tail him behind Toddy all night. He's getting called to the front of the queues and all that sort of stuff down there. We had a great night out. I remember we were lying in bed about 3:30 in the morning. We had some Maccas.
Yeah.
And I'm lying in bed thinking, wow, this is a pretty unreal experience. I've just been looked after by the skipper, gone out to Carris, played in a big local derby game and had some success. So, pretty special memories.
Geez, what a start. So after that, you're obviously feeling a lot more comfortable in the environment. Like you said, it's all happened pretty quickly. So intimidating going into that environment with playing with your heroes, bossing your heroes around, and then you play a good game. Was that all it took for you to start feeling like I'm good enough to be here?
Yep. It's as you know, mate, being a young 10 at the time. Like I played midfield through school, 12 and 13, and was a reluctant 10 really. Yeah. But I could kick the ball, and had a bit of vision, I suppose, for the game, and that sort of become a bit of my trademark as a 12, being able to create space and put other people in space and manage the game as a second pivot. But man, it's a tough learning environment, for a young fella and a young 10. So there were certainly ups and downs in that first year. I remember that was a high. I remember going to North Harbour, a game that we're expected to win and losing, and I didn't manage the game well. I'm still trying to play the game like a schoolboy, run everything, let's go there, and probably a little bit inaccurate and without understanding, the cause and effect or how to really build a performance through the game and finish a team off. And we missed the semi-finals that year, so had a lot of All Blacks away. And we missed the semi-finals. I think we played the last game, and then we come home. We were waiting on another game to go our way, and it didn't go our way. So it was certainly some great experiences, but some of those tough learning experiences too for a 10. But I always felt like the coaches backed me, and always grateful for that, for the opportunity, and also for the support that both Robbie and Steve put around me as a young fella. And it probably took, I was named in the Crusaders at the end of that NPC season, but it probably took me another couple of years to really start seeing the game in a way that allowed me to really impact it, understand where I fitted in, understand what my skills were, and really go and impact the game. And it was probably the 2001 NPC. And it's sort of it's like the game appeared and the pictures become a lot clearer. So that's sort of 3 years into it. Yeah.
What helped that? What sped that up?
I think the experiences.
Yeah.
Playing a bit more consistently. So I've sort of been playing a bit of 10, 12. I remember my first year in the Crusaders, I actually had my first game at fullback against the Chiefs. I debuted against the Chiefs.
You're on the wing too.
Up and down there, mate. I'd take anything. Yeah. Robbie was like, "You're
except
good."
The front row.
Yeah, anything except the front row. Yeah. Well, it probably wasn't big enough to be fair, but I would have taken anything. Just to be there was an amazing experience. And look at the cattle we had in the back line at the time. We had halfbacks with Marshy and Canterbury Stalwart and Aaron Flynn. Yeah. We had Mertz was playing 10, myself covering 10. Leon was covering 10 as well. We had Mark Mayer-Hoffler, Daryl Gibson, Mark Robinson, Norm Berryman in the midfield. Guys that all played for the All Blacks. So I'm rubbing shoulders with these guys. You got Caleb Ralph, Marika Vonambaka, Fato Swalo on the wing. So it was just an absolute stacked team. So I was lucky. I actually played in every fixture that year.
Did you?
I was selected in every fixture.
At 19?
At 19, just turned 19. And I think all those experiences were key. And I think even through the rough ones, Robbie must have been thinking sometimes, but he also understood the journey for a young fella, and obviously saw enough potential to keep giving me a crack. And I had some good moments as well. I remember the first game against the Chiefs, we managed to sneak by in the end, and I'd come on at fullback. I hadn't really played much fullback in my career, and I think Robbie wanted to give me a bit of experience. Yeah. And this back in the day where Rugby Park was pretty dusty and a bit of a rough park up in Hamilton. First game of the year, and I'm on there and I'm just playing footy, I'm in there, I'm just excited to be there really. Yeah. And there's about 5 minutes to go and the score's 24 all. And we're about 35 metres out from the line, and I'm sort of just watching the game. And I'm in behind the ruck, and normally Berryman shouts at me, shoot it, Azza, shoot it. So Marshy throws me the ball and I hit this drop goal. And I think it come off halfway up my shin, to be fair. And it was sort of a bit of a dead duck, but it went over. And so that was my introduction to Super Rugby.
Oh,
a match-winning drop goal off the shin. So pretty cool experience, you know, to be there and be a part of it and to have an influence on the game straight away.
Yeah, and you mentioned Mertz there. Like, what was he like to sit under and learn off?
Oh, unreal. Yeah, sharpest rugby mind I've ever come across.
Really?
Yeah.
Far out.
And I think the beauty of playing outside of Mertz on attack, not so much defence, but on attack, was he would just see pictures so fast, you know. His snapshots were unreal. He'd come around a corner, he'd already assessed things. So he always had the ability to give you time when you needed time, or take pressure off by plugging a corner or putting one up high. He just knew where to put the ball. So I learned a huge amount around game management and making decisions and picking up cues on the run from Mertz. Absolute champion, and he helped me a lot. Got a good story with Mertz, actually. My first test, I played alongside Mertz in Dublin at Lansdowne Road in 2001. We talk about leaving the jersey in a better place. So go out and play the game, and Ireland actually had us under the pump. And we're actually down at half-time, and we're coming at half-time, and he was just a really calming voice. Go out in the second half. We should give Jonah the ball a couple of times, and he swung the game as well. So you got Tunner at 13, so we had enough experience and enough firepower to get the job done.
Yeah.
But I think it was the calming voice of Mertz at half-time, really clear on how we were going to break them down, where the opportunities were, and what he needed from everybody out on the field. So I was just sitting there in awe, you know.
Yeah.
Watching him to deliver these messages, and then go out and you're just a part of it, and you do your job. But after the game, I marked a guy called Kevin Maggs. So Kevin Maggs was number 12 for Ireland. He come into the shed and wanted to swap jerseys. I said, "Oh, sorry, mate. I've been dreaming about wearing this jersey since I was about 4 years old, for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
I can't swap this one, sorry." And so Kevin Maggs turns around, walks across the change room floor, sort of dragging his feet a little bit. And Mertz was 2 cubicles down. So Mertz is in 10, Jonah's 11, and I'm in 12. And Mertz is watching it all unfold. So he grabs his jersey, follows Kevin Maggs out before he gets to the door, taps him on the shoulder and says, "Mate, I'll swap with you." So not only does Kevin Maggs get an All Black jersey, he gets an All Black Legends jersey. I think Mertz was the highest point scorer in Test rugby at that time. You know, he'd already achieved that feat. And then he doesn't stop there. He comes over and then he said, "As a well done on your first test, you can have this one anyway, mate." So he gave me Kevin Maggs' number 12 jersey, you know. So talk about having an impact and leaving the jersey in a positive place. That's Mertz, you know, big heart. Not only inside the game, but also the people around him having a big impact. So I love him for that.
Man, what a legend. That is a cool story.
Yeah, certainly a lad. Have you had him on?
No, I haven't. I need to. Obviously, what has he got? Like 7 kids now. Just had twins. He's a busy man. Yeah,
you've normally allowed about 90 minutes for most of these. You probably need 2 days for Mertz, to be fair. He's outstanding talker, and he can recall every experience that he's ever had. So. Yeah, certainly a legend of a man.
Yeah. Well, one memory I have of you in your Super Rugby, I don't know if you remember, but playing I think it might have been the Cats in Trafalgar Park, Nelson, and I was the ball boy that day. I was running your tee out, and you had a kick from the sideline to win the game. Do you remember that?
Oh, I do, yeah. I remember the game well. Actually, somebody sent me the photo of you handing me the tee as a young fella.
Yeah.
Mate, we used to love getting around the regions.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that was a real strength of Robbie's. Like he was just such a proud Canterbury and Crusader man, and he knew the importance of connecting with everybody within your region.
Yeah.
So we used to have some great trips to Westport and to Greymouth, to Nelson, to Blenheim, down to Ashburton, Timaru, get right through the region. It was awesome. So we always loved playing up in Nelson, and always really well supported there, and great ball boys too. World class ball boys.
Some of the quickest.
Yeah. And I remember the day, it was a beautiful sunny day, and it was probably that period just as I was sort of starting to figure the game out, you know, and feel like, I can really, really impact the game. So I'm on the bench and we were down to the Cats, and I come on and managed to score a couple of quick tries, and I'm just in the zone enjoying it. There's no pressure on. We're probably, I think we're down by 12 points.
It's high scoring. It was like massive, like 40 something.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Might have been down by 13 points when I come on. So I'm like, man, if I can turn this around, eh? So you're just going for it.
Yeah.
And then we get to that point where we score the last try, and I'm like, shit, now it's on me. I've got to, and it did my head in.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember just chipping the kick, it was a terrible looking kick. Another one off the shin. And it was just such a hollow feeling, a bad feeling, of let the team down. They actually did a reasonable job to put us in that situation, come on and managed to get us there. But I just remember, shit, now it's all on me.
Yeah.
And it just overwhelmed me, that feeling. So I certainly learned a lot about, from that experience. The funny thing was we come back to Christchurch the next day, and I think Linwood had rugby trials on, and I was watching a couple of my mates playing these trials down at Linwood, and normally a pretty positive crowd, local boy. Yeah. It's over in one of my local club that I played junior rugby in, and we get down to the club, and one of the kids yells out, "Hey, Major!" And I was expecting him to ask for an autograph or something.
Yeah, mate.
You suck. You need to work on your goal kicking. It's like a 12 or 13-year-old kid. So, certainly humbling experience at the time, and humbled by a 13-year-old kid on the sideline at a club trial.
Did you kick much after that? I don't remember you being much of a goal kicker.
Mate, I did the maths. So we had Ben Blair, Leon McDonald, Mertz, so I was sort of like fourth or fifth, down the list.
Reluctant goal kicker, or did you enjoy it?
I wouldn't say I fully embraced goal kicking. Yeah. I wasn't a world-class goal kicker, and we had world-class, like all three of those guys. Like Ben Blair, like he's an 85, 86% guy, and Mertz was up there as well. And then Leon he didn't put as much work into his kicking, but he could kick. Every time he was caught on the kick, he was quality. So I decided if I was going to be the best 12 I could be, I probably needed to spend my extra time at the end of training doing other things, like really working on my tackle and dominating tackles and my ball play, making sure I'm doing my job first and foremost. So I sort of stopped kicking about 2003, 2004. Had a few groin issues as well. Yeah. But really, mate, those guys were just a lot better, so did the maths.
And you mentioned, from memory, like 2002 with the Crusaders was the year that you might have come last, or you had a poor year?
2001.
Or 2001.
Yeah, we come 10th.
10th, that's right.
Year. Yeah. And then there's pretty much the same group of men went unbeaten the next year in 2002. So
what was the difference there?
Well, the backstory is we'd won 3 in a row, 98, 99, 2000. My first full experience with the squad was in 2000. And I think, what as Smithy always used to say, success is your enemy, can be your enemy. Yeah. And I think we're probably victim to that. Through that period, we'd also created a lot of All Blacks. So a lot of those Crusaders who were performing well for the Crusaders then moved into the All Blacks, had been on end-of-year tours for a couple of years, World Cups and all that sort of stuff. And I think Robbie had wanted to look after those players, to do right by the player and give them a bit more time with their families. And so absolutely the right thing to do. But there's always a compromise somewhere. And probably the compromise was we weren't as well prepared for the 2001 season. We hadn't had that time together. And as you know, mate, like Crusader teams, the success was built on hard work. And that hard work looked like being in the gym early in the morning, looked like running up the Rapaki track or over Godley Head or doing hill repeats up Mount Pleasant, and all those things, all those shared experiences you work through together. And that looks like a Todd Blackadder picking you up by your pants and giving you a wedgie and dragging you up a hill because he knows there's more in you. Yeah. And that's where teams are really built, I think anyway. Yeah. Like you build your team there. Like the footy's the footy. You've got enough talented players to sort the footy out. But that's where your teams are really built through that pre-season. And we missed that. And so 2001, we went to Canberra and got our pants pulled down by the Brumbies. They beat us 51-16. I think that was a score or something like that. And we just beat them in the final there the year before. Yeah. So they were seeking revenge, and they got it. They got it in spades, and I remember George Gregan yelling out all sorts of stuff during the game, just reminding us of how shit we were that game, and yeah, living in the past, boys, you're living in the past. They're crashing over for another try. And then we went to Auckland the next week, and we got dominated by the Blues, and then we just were chasing our tail.
Yeah.
It was you just have those seasons where it just doesn't feel right, and then you try so hard because everybody cares, and you probably over try.
Yeah.
And then you get in each other's way because you just lost your rhythm.
Yeah.
So it was certainly one of those years. But good bunch of men, like a really good bunch of men, and we managed to address that. A lot of those guys played for Canterbury in the NPC 2001, so we sort of were able to tidy up a few things there and get our combos flowing. And then 2002 come around, we're a bit more genuine around our prep in the pre-season. I think we might have had a great trip up to Nelson and around the region of the game, so we got all that stuff in together. And I think we won 6 games by less than 7 points.
Oh, yeah.
I think we won 3 or 4 of those games in the last 3 or 4 minutes. So that's a reflection of how tight your team is.
Yeah.
So we just went back to basics and built the team before we started the rugby and got it right. So funny, fickle.
Yeah,
it's a fickle old game. Yeah.
It's all such small margins, isn't it? Like a lot of those games you say, like such little moments, but just that connection, that deeper connection that you'd obviously built, that can be the difference.
Trust, eh? It's all trust through those connections, through those shared experiences. I remember we had a camp up in Hamner going into that season, and we were actually booked in to stay at the Heritage. So Heritage is a beautiful hotel up in Hamner, And then we go and do this amazing race type sort of adventure thing in your mini teams. It took all day, and it was bloody tough.
Yeah.
And as every station that you got to first, you were collecting points. And your points were, we didn't actually know what the points were, but just enough, just winning was enough. Just winning, having the most points. Probably the most competitive man you'd ever. You got Leon McDonald, you got Justin Marshall, you got Andrew Mertens, you got Mark Hammett. All these guys are just the most competitive creatures you'll ever come across. So everyone just wanted to win. Anyway, our team did pretty well in the thing. I think we had the most points at the end of it. So when we come back in, the point system turned into tokens, and the tokens were to buy tents and food and all that sort of stuff because we had to go camping. So we weren't even staying in the Heritage. We ended up camping on the front lawn at the Heritage. And in my team, I had Maxwell, I think I had Thorny, Brad Thorne, Marshy, Hammer. So I had all the competitive guys. Probably why we come first in the thing. But none of us knew how to put a tent up. So, and then it starts pouring down with rain, and we'd spent all our tokens on the tent. Hey, let's just make sure we have a good night's sleep. It's been a tough couple of days. You're up late and you're doing lots of, sort of tasks at silly hours in the morning and that. So let's just make sure we have a good sleep. We can probably get by on peanut butter sandwiches.
Yeah.
So we didn't leave much money for the food. And so then it starts pouring out, and there's no instructions with the tent. So the guys who spend all their money on the food and wanted to have a good feed, they put up these little pup tents, but they're all sleeping together,
Yeah.
So I remember looking over, and you got my brother and Johnny Little and Ben Hurst and all those guys. They're all got their tent up in 2 minutes, these little pup tents, and they're cooking with their little billies. And they were having a great feed. And we're still trying to figure out what panel goes over there and what pole goes over there. And it's pouring now with rain. You can imagine the look on Marshall's face.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, you guys just listen." And then he storms off. He storms off inside, packs a sad, and then you got Maxwell chipping at him from, all them Marshy. So Marshy's going off, and he's getting annoyed at Maxwell, and they're frying at each other, and the team just imploded pretty much. We were lucky Foxy, John Miles, come out, and he sort of helped put the tent together, and we finally got it up, and Marshy had felt really bad, so he'd come and got the food, which was 2 loaves of bread and a punnet of peanut butter, and made the sandwiches up as his peace offering when he come back. But it's those experiences, and apologising for for getting it wrong and all that sort of stuff that builds the trust in a team.
And memories for life.
Memories for life, deeply ingrained.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cool. And one game that I'm keen to hear from your perspective about is the Waratahs game, where it was just an absolute clinic. 90 highest scoring game ever. You're doing front flips. It was just an absolute globetrotter performance. What do you remember about that game?
Yeah, it's a bit embarrassing, that flip, to be fair. It's probably the first and only time I ever showboated in my life, and I hurt my back doing it. Yeah, so I had to get up and put a brave face on.
And that's what ended your career, wasn't it?
Up, yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was that incident, but it might have had something to do with it. But what a game!
Yeah.
I remember. It's probably one of the best memories I have of coming off at half-time, 63-0, and the standing ovation from the crowd. Yeah. Just the appreciation from the crowd. And it's one of those games where everything just gelled for us, and it didn't for them. Like, they were a quality side. They were stacked of Wallabies. Yeah. They were coming second on the table at the time, and it was just, Mertens was on fire. You know, he was just putting people in space, and Leon had a great game. Everyone played well. You know.
Yeah.
It was a pretty fantastic day.
We usually see games like that where teams can sort of put that sort of performance in for 10, 15 minutes, and then, you know, it swings back. But that was just relentless. Like, you just did not take the foot off.
No, we didn't. And even Fiki scored a try that day, and that was a pretty rare occurrence. So, that was everyone was getting in on the fun. Yeah. Actually, the funny thing is, I think Nath was the only guy that didn't score a try that day in the whole back line. So I think the boys often remind him of that when we bring up that 96-19 scoreline. Nath, were you the only guy that didn't score a try in the back line that day?
And the Crusaders have always sort of, especially back then, talking to guys like Flinney and Maxwell and stuff around, work hard but play hard, and after the game was always a good time to enjoy each other's company and celebrate all those performances, all those wins. Yeah,
definitely. Like, we certainly had the best of both. I think we certainly trained hard. We earned our performances. We played hard and enjoyed each other's company. Like, even before the beers, like, you'd sit down after the game, and I was always one of the last to the after matches because I just loved that feeling of being in the change room, and just that feeling of being able to look your mate or your brother who was often next to me in the eye, and without saying anything, tell him that you've given everything for him, and he's done the same. And it was a pretty special group of men to do that alongside. A lot of us grew up there from our late teens through to getting married and having babies and all that sort of stuff. So you share so many experiences on and off the field together.
Yeah.
So it's pretty special connection. And then we partied.
Yeah.
We enjoyed ourselves. And the beauty of the Crusader group was it never really got out of hand. It was just happy. It was a happy group. Some great times.
Some good parties.
Some good parties. Yeah.
And then your All Blacks, you mentioned where your debut was, but only 21 years old. What was it like being named and then called into that environment?
Yeah, it was pretty. It was a dream come true. Like, we just won the NPC. We played Otago in the final on the Saturday night, and then Leo McDonald turned up to my house with Joe Maddock the next morning. With both had a box of beer under their arm. Yeah. They were pretty excited about the All Black team naming, which is going to be on the radio at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I opened the door up and said, "Oh, it's a bit early, rang," and he goes, "Nah, you boys are going to get named in the All Blacks, and I want to be here to celebrate with you." So that meant a lot.
Yeah.
There was no guarantee we were going to get named. We'd had a good season. Both Nathan and I were living together, and we played 12 and 13 through that campaign. And obviously Canterbury had a pretty good campaign on the back of an awesome team performance. There was a chance that we might have made it. So Leon,
he must have known.
He must have known. Yeah, he was pretty tight with Robbie Deans, to be fair. So Robbie might have given him the tip. It was Robbie's.
It would have been embarrassing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So anyway, the team's getting read out, and we both get called out. And he said, "Oh, I just knew it, and I wanted to be here with you boys." So we had a great celebration. It was actually Toddy's last game the night before for Canterbury. We had a going away do for him in the afternoon. And I got back to my house about 4 or 5 o'clock, and my whole family's there. Crate bottles, champagne bottles, half a Littleton's in my house.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool to be able to share it with people that meant a lot and been on the journey with us. And we turned up to first camp, the All Blacks the next day. So pretty much the side at the time, the All Black side was half Canterbury and half Otago with a sprinkling of other players.
Yeah.
So there's probably only about 3 or 4 guys that turned up sober to my first All Black camp, and Mitch and Robbie obviously knew what was going on. So I think we just had a flush that first day, and then And then we had a meeting that night around, mapping out the campaign and what we wanted to achieve out of it once everyone was a bit fresher and had sweated out a few beers. I remember Anton Oliver was the captain on that tour, and after that huddle of the flush, he just gave me a wee squeeze on the shoulder and congratulated me for making it. And I said, "Oh, yeah, thanks, Anton." I didn't know Anton overly well at the time, played against him a bit. And he said, "Well done, you've just made the start line." And it really resonates with me around what he's really trying to say was there's a lot of responsibility that comes with the privilege of being an All Black. And he asked me, how are you going to leave the jersey in a better place over these next 4 or 5 weeks? So my mentality went from being just happy to be here guy.
Yeah.
And straight away, that just changed my thinking, changed my mentality. Man, this guy's expecting me to come and make an impact and leave the jersey in a better place. And what about all the legends that have already done that, So it's a big job. But it was so good for me because it just really sharpened me up around from going from being the happy to be here guy first time to actually you can make a difference.
Yeah.
So appreciated that gift from Hatch, and it set me up for a good tour. Went away and wrote some things in my book that night, and was pretty diligent with my writing my notes down, and lucky enough to meet Gilbert and Nooker at a young age, so I had some good processes in place. But that conversation was an important one for me, and helped me realise that we are just guardians of the jersey, for a time straight away, and it was my time now to leave the jersey in a better place.
It's powerful. Did you feel intimidated in there, or because obviously half the group was Crusaders? I know a lot of guys when they first go into the All Blacks, they just feel so overawed by it all the legends, the jersey, everything that comes with it. But I'm guessing you probably, because you knew a lot, you'd played with a lot, you'd probably earned a lot of their respect already. Did you feel a little bit more comfortable?
No, I was still sort of in awe of some of the, like Anton and guys like that. Had been there he'd been an All Black for 4 or 5 years at that stage, and I was lucky enough. Doug Howlett was on the side, and I played Colts with Dougie. So quite a few of those guys I had connections with through age group teams as well. It was actually quite a young All Black team, so I was probably lucky enough that I knew enough of them. But certainly a guy like Anton I was looked up to, and you just sort of got to try and feel your way around, new relationships and that.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't feel inhibited at all. I think I was just excited and just ready to embrace it.
Yeah.
And I think we'd come off a good season as well with Canterbury, so I was confident with how I was playing. Yeah.
And then was it the following year was Rugby World Cup?
2 years later.
2 years later.
2 years later, yeah.
And what was that like going to your first Rugby World Cup?
Yeah, it was, I think any time you get named, it's a real privilege. You never take it for granted. Even if you're in good form, you never take it for granted that you're going to be named in that side. There's always a lot of good players competing for the jersey. But it's pretty special to go to a World Cup. We were actually based in Melbourne for a lot of the time, and most of the hype was up in Sydney. So I'm not sure if we had fully really embraced the World Cup.
Yeah.
We were sort of just down in Melbourne preparing ourselves and probably in our own world a little bit. And I'm not sure if that was necessarily the best thing for us. And we'd beaten Aussie twice the year before, that year to win the Bledisloe Cup. That New Zealand hadn't had it for 5 years. We're sort of on a bit of a high going into the World Cup. We cruised through our pool games. We beat South Africa in the quarter.
Another droppy off the shin, wasn't it?
Another one off the shin, Another one. I think everyone was just a bit knackered. I might have been out of puff, to be fair, so trying to give us a bit of a breather. So either going to go over and we get a rest back down there, or it's not going to go over and we get a rest for the 22 restart. So, managed to sneak one in there. But then I remember when we went to Sydney the next week, the atmosphere was totally different. And it was probably that moment where we might have realised we'd missed an opportunity to be a part of that and really embrace it. And it was talked about before we went to 2007 World Cup in France. Just really embracing the World Cup and the atmosphere and all the expectations and the pressures and that is there, so it's real. So you either accept it or avoid it. And we did a lot better job at accepting it, although that was the worst All Black performance in the World Cup in 2007 ever. So, still didn't get a few things right. But that was a pretty cool experience, 2003. And then, but we went into that semi-final and Aussie just dominated us. I still have visions of Sterling Mortlock intercepting that ball from Carlos. And I'm thinking, Joe Rocks is probably going to catch him, and then Sterling just, he just got too much of a head start, and that was pretty much a pretty defining moment in that game, and they got their tails up and were good enough to get the job done. So that was a pretty bitter sort of exit from that World Cup. We're probably, along with England, one of the two best teams in the world, and we didn't really get a chance to show our best, and got blindsided a little bit. So that was a lesson for young team and a young coaching group too.
And what was it like post that for you? Is it hard coming? Obviously, getting sprayed by the 12-year-olds for missing a goal. Yeah. But what was it like for you out in public coming back from that World Cup?
Mate, I come home, I flew to Auckland, I got groin surgery.
Oh, yeah.
So I was sort of laying low for a week, and then I had my stag do, and then I got married. So it was actually the best time of my life. Up in Blenheim, married Amy.
Yeah.
We're 21 years married this year. So
well done, man.
Yeah, pretty special time around lots of people that we're close with, and they come and celebrated with us. We had an awesome time. So that was a great summer. I had some of my best mates from Ireland out here. I actually played in Ireland when I was 17 for 5 months. Did a little stint up there. So some of those three couples come out to celebrate with us. So we pretty much had a summer of celebrating and having a good time. So
that's cool.
It was a nice way to wash away the bitterness of that World Cup exit.
Far out. Oh, that's cool. Good way to definitely get away from it all.
Yeah.
And then 2005, I think the Lions come over, probably the next big one in your career. What do you remember about that tournament?
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just the support. Man, they showed New Zealanders how to support their teams. Colours, flags, singing, enjoyment. They just really made a massive impact. Really enjoyed the Lions fans. It was getting tough at that time. Like it was always tough to get selected, but you had a young Manonu coming through, Conrad Smith coming through, Tana Umanga's at the top of his game.
Yeah.
You got Peter Alatini floating around. You've got a lot of good midfielders at the time. So once again, I was just wrapped to make the side. My old man was a rugby nut and had all the almanacs. So like he'd send me clippings or bring stuff out when we were kids of Lions tours and that. So I knew that there was a rich history there. And it was something really special to be a part of. So, and I remember getting named in the first test in Christchurch, and pretty special feeling. And normally didn't get told that you were going to start, but Ted specifically come up to tell me that I was going to start in that game. It was probably recognition for maybe experience. But yeah, pretty special feeling. I got to play a lot of my footy alongside Tana as well. So we'd had a combination for 4 years there, from 2001 to 2005, and that was a partnership that worked pretty well. Spent a bit of time off the field too, learning how to play the guitar, strum a few dusty tunes, and but I really enjoyed that connection with Tana, and that's potentially what sold the deal, because I knew those other boys were knocking on the door, you know, and they did for my last couple of years, and then the All Black jersey as well.
And Carter inside you?
Desi, yeah. So Desi actually played a lot of rugby at 12. Between him, Mertz, myself, I think Robbie just used to try and get us all on the field. So I had some experiences at 13 and 12 and 10, and Desi was a young guy trying to find his way as a 10 too. So he spent a bit of time at 12 while I was playing 10. So it's a bit like musical jerseys there for a couple of years. But that was, I think, the 2004 tour, the All Black tour to Europe, was really where he stamped his mark and let everyone know that he's going to be the best 10 in the world for the next 10 years, you know, 10 years plus. And he did that, and then he was on fire through 2005. The Crusaders won another title. He's leading the charge. He's still got Mertz sitting in there behind him, sort of, driving him and guiding him. And then he was just phenomenal, wasn't he?
Yeah. Did you know he was going to be that good?
I knew he was going to be good. I actually was sitting with Tana, and it was before we played an All Black test, and Canterbury played East Coast, and I think it might have been Desi's first game for Canterbury, and he scored about 4 or 5 tries, and he was fending people off. He was chipping and chasing, and I said to Tana, I actually watched him play in the school college Boys High versus Christ College game a few years ago, and he looked pretty sharp there.
Yeah.
So we're expecting big things from him, and then And he was playing 12 against the East Coast that day, and Tana goes, well, you better watch out, bro. He looks pretty good to me. So, it didn't take him long to really stamp his mark, and it didn't really matter where you played Desi because he's fast, he's strong, he can kick. You probably could have played him anywhere from 9 to 15 in those first couple of years, and he would have done a good job. And he's tough, like he defended like a loose forward, So, what a career that he went on to have. Yeah.
And then I guess the next one was probably the 2007 Rugby World Cup. You mentioned it before, but worst result ever. Yeah. You obviously had a few plans from the unsuccessful 03, but what do you remember about the 07 World Cup?
Yeah, probably the lead-in. Like, we had the two best teams in the world.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to sound arrogant or anything there, but that was part of the plan, that the coaching team wanted to create depth. And we were playing, I remember going on the 2005 tour. We had a team that played Ireland, the team that played Wales in the first game of the Grand Slam, and they won by 40 points. I think Desi scored about 26 points that day.
Yeah.
And then we played Ireland the next week with a totally different team, and we won by 40-odd points, Yeah. So we had two teams really dominating at the time. So we were confident going in there. And the boys were on good nick. We had the conditioning period. We had the first sort of 6 or 7 games off Super Rugby, which I don't think every player bought into, to be fair. Most of us just love playing the game. We want to play the game. But to be fair, we're all in great nick. We're all hitting PBs in the gym and sprints and all that sort of stuff. So we felt well prepared. The leadership group had done a massive amount of work too with the coaches and the mental skills with Gilbert. Revisiting past campaigns, what we'd learned. So we'd sort of taken it all on, and then we sort of had a pretty easy pull. So that, I don't know if that helped. And obviously it all unravelled in that quarter final against France.
Yeah,
I think once again we'd beaten them well on the tour out to New Zealand, and they just gave us something we weren't ready for. Yeah, and the rest is history. You got to give them credit. They executed their plan well. We were probably played into their hands a little bit. I remember Terry Dusatois made about 70 tackles that game. He was just absolutely phenomenal. Yannick Josian in the midfield was sort of running amok.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of things didn't go our way, and then the pressure come on, and we just weren't ready for it. I think that was well acknowledged in the review, and fortunately for a lot of those players and the coaching staff got another crack and got it right in 2011. So, never got the chance to taste that World Cup success.
Yeah.
Part of 2 failed campaigns, but still a huge privilege to be a part of it, and to experience, playing for the All Blacks in a World Cup.
And Luke McAllister got the nod at 12 for that one.
Yeah. Yeah, that was coming. I think he was in outstanding form. I felt like I couldn't have done anything more to play, put my hand up to play as the number 112, but Lukey was in outstanding form. He probably a bit more physical as well, a bit more of a physical game against those bigger sides. Could kick goals too, was still kicking goals at the time, so he probably had a couple more strings to his bow, and so I was pretty content with that, to be fair. And he was outstanding in that game. He actually played really well.
Yeah.
I think he might have been our player of the day. A little consolation when you're losing a World Cup knockout game, but so no qualms at all. I think outstanding player. He's in form at the time, so just backed him and got him behind him through the week. And
was it about this time where you felt like might be an opportunity to head overseas, and you felt all these young guys coming through?
I'd already decided before that year had started. So I sat down with all my coaches, so Robbie, Crusaders, and I let Ted and Shag and Smithy know that I was going to head offshore.
Oh, yeah.
So this was so I thought that might jeopardise my chances as well.
Yeah.
Especially with all those young guys coming through, but I just wanted to get it out there and not be a distraction and really enjoy the year. Enjoy what's going to be my last year in New Zealand for the time being anyway. So, and then just had to make sure I played good enough footy to get selected. So managed to get selected and experienced another World Cup. We had we lost the semi-final for the Crusaders in Pretoria. That was the first year the Bulls actually won it. So that was my last game in a Crusader jersey, and then I think my last game in an All Black jersey was against Romania in Toulouse in the last pool game of the World Cup. So, but man, if you'd offered me, I think it was about 90 odd games for the Crusaders and 45 tests for the All Blacks, when I started my career in New Zealand, I would have taken that in. I would have taken one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, pretty lucky.
Yeah. So why Leicester?
Yeah, had the opportunity to go to Leicester or Munster, and then a couple of French clubs as well. But Leicester was probably the closest. Even though I wanted a different experience, I wanted a bit of familiarity as well. A team that was been successful, rich pedigree and winning competitors. Just ended up settling on Leicester. Mate, we loved it. Like, it was such a good decision. Didn't necessarily love the first 3 months. It took me a while to adapt.
Yeah.
It took us a while to adapt.
To life or footy or both?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah, both. And Leicester were successful in a totally different way to the Crusaders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I realised that, man, I'm going to have to adapt. Yeah. Can't expect people to adapt around me, Yeah. It's I'm going to have to change my way of thinking. I'm going to have to change my game, and really come back to the controlling the things within your control and having an impact on this environment. It was a good 3 months.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of that first season, so I got there halfway through the season, or sort of quarter way through the season, felt like I was starting to find my way as a player and have an impact on the team. Sort of felt like I'd earned my stripes. Man, they were tough, eh? Like they're tough, the Leicester boys. The boys are scrapping every Tuesday. Like the boys used to call it Test Match Tuesday. You have a squad of 45, so you got half your squad aren't playing each week. And if they haven't played for 3 or 4 weeks, they're starting to get a little bit testy, and then they're trying to prove themselves at training. So the amount of times we'd have units in the morning on Tuesday, and the units will go for an hour and a bit. Sometimes the forwards will go for an hour and a half, and they'll be bashing the crap out of each other. So the backs normally got to lunch first on Tuesday. We used to eat in the canteen together, and you wait for the forwards to come through, and they're normally a bit battered and bruised. And they've only got an hour before the team session, so the main session's still to come. And often you walk through, and who is it today? You're just waiting for someone to walk through with a big split and some stitches on the eye, or a big bulge coming out of their cheek or something somewhere. But and that made the team. It was such a tough, uncompromising team. We were always going forward. And I think most teams that went and had any success against Leicester normally got at least parity up front, or managed to win the arm wrestle up front, but it didn't happen often. Yeah. So really enjoyed my time there. Really enjoyed learning a different way of footy. Yeah. How to break an opposition down and learn from different players.
Yeah. So the biggest difference for you, like obviously the Crusaders had quite a free flowing, play the space type setup, and then going over there really forward orientated. Kick battle, pressure. Was that basically the biggest difference?
Mate, in a nutshell. Yeah. I think my first game, Marcelo Lafreda had just come, so he'd taken Argentina to third place in the World Cup in 2007. So he was doing some amazing things, and what a fantastic man. He was doing that because he built his team based around the culture and the people, and being able to do that in Argentinian, in Spanish. Yeah. Tough gig for him, coming to Leicester, totally different environment. And I think he found that quite tough, that transition, especially trying to speak, around the game plan and capture the boys and get us. So we ended up playing a bit of a mixture of English and Argentinian rugby at the time, and the Argies kicked the ball a lot. So, but they could also play some amazing rugby when it was on. So it was like a slow game, kick, pressure, physical. And then when there was a loose ball, they would just ignite, and their game would go bang, 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 like pinball, and then they'd end up scoring an amazing try. But it was based around kick, territory game, which is very similar to the English. And Smithy used to challenge me 30 touches as a 12, 30, 40 touches. That's, getting into world-class territory. So I was used to touching the ball all the time, ball playing and just being involved. So my first game, we played Toulouse in a big Heineken Cup match, and we end up sneaking by 8-7. And I touched the ball 3 or 4 times in 60 minutes, make about 50 tackles, and get absolutely belted, running into car crashes the whole time, 1-2 cuts, just set a target so we can kick, And and I'll get a dead leg after one of those carries, and I'll limp off after 60 minutes. And before I cross the chalk on the side, I'm like, man, I don't know if I made the right decision here. Eh? It was a cold, wet night at Welford Road. But just learned to had to adapt.
Yeah.
Had to adapt, and so trained a little bit different. Understood where I could have an impact on the game. Maybe open the team up a little bit too to some more opportunities just outside of what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think it worked pretty well. But it was the best thing for me. I think the next year was probably the most consistent and best footy that I played.
Yeah. Were you captain?
I captained a few games, yeah. So Martin Corrie was our captain.
Oh, yeah.
Outstanding man, great leader, tough, very tough. So he was our captain. He played a bit of 8-6 and lock. He was the top Blackadder type sort of figure. Hard round the corner, elbows, knees, just body on the line. Tough as nails, good man. And then you had Benny Kay and Julian White and all those guys sort of following around the corner.
Yeah.
And the gang of them, they were pretty hard to stop. So he was the captain, but he had a few injuries that year. So I ended up sort of captaining a few games, and it was obviously a huge privilege to captain the side.
And the Heineken Cup that you won on the penalty shootout, the 22 right in front.
Yeah.
I think you kicked about third or fourth, didn't you?
Mate, I think I might have been fifth or sixth.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. So
You tried to put yourself right down the order.
Yeah, I didn't, mate. Didn't want that. I had flashbacks of Trafalgar Park back in 2001. I just needed you to come and bring the tea on for me. Mate, I think we had a lot of good goal kickers in the team.
Yeah.
I was probably a bit more recognised at a higher level, but a lot of these guys kicked all the time, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys kick. You're the ones that are, do all the kicking. And I just come back from, so the game went into injury time. I was supposed to play 20 minutes because I was starting to have some issues with my back.
Oh, yeah.
So my right side was sort of playing up. My piriformis and glute med, so part of your bum.
Yeah.
Wasn't fully firing properly. And I was starting to sink a little bit. Then I had to play another 20 minutes. So I wasn't in a great way, to be fair, kicking that. I was sort of getting a few pins and needles in my toes. So
Yeah.
I was a little bit concerned, but, mate, muscle memory sort of kicks in and you managed to slot it through. I remember it being a relief though.
I bet.
Watching it go through, it was better than the kick that won us the game was Jordan Crane's. So I think we got down to kickers 9 and 10.
Yeah.
Craig Newby actually slotted a beauty too.
I remember him. He was so confident.
He wanted to go first. He backed himself, Noobs. I always fancied it. He was out there goal kicking with Scott Hamilton.
Oh, yeah.
The two of them both lived up the road from me, and we spent a lot of time with them.
Yeah.
Had some great times with both of them, top men.
Mate, they love it too.
They love it. They love it, all right. But I remember that last kick. So Martin Williams had missed for Cardiff.
Yeah.
And Ben Blair actually kicked their first goal.
Yeah.
And I think maybe even a young Lee Halfpenny might have been on their squad at the time.
Yeah.
But I remember Martin Williams missing his one. And then Jordan Crane stepping up, our number 8, played a few tests for England. And he spiralled his over. Just snuck over the crossbar. So, a bit of an interesting way to finish a game when you're getting down to that non-recognised goal kickers.
Yeah.
So the system there is it's just your goal kickers, and they go from 3 different spots, I think, and I think that's how it is.
Yeah,
so it's not coming down to guys who don't kick. It's a pretty hollow way to win a game.
I was going to say such a weird way to celebrate one of the biggest competitions to win, and you've won it from Martin Williams missing a kick right in front.
Yeah, that was just a semi. So that was to go through the final.
Oh, was it?
So that was to go through the final and play Leinster in the final.
Oh, yeah.
So we actually went to Edinburgh to play Leinster in the final and lost.
Oh, true.
So
So you didn't win it?
That was Leinster's first win.
Yeah.
European Championship. Yeah.
Oh, true. But you did have a bit of success over there. You won a Heineken Cup over there, did you?
Didn't win a Heineken, so we played in that final. We won two premierships while I was there. The first year, we played against Wasps in the final.
Yeah.
We only snuck through to the final, or the semis actually, on the last day. So the beauty in the premiership, it's such a good competition. It's such a tight, as you know from your days over there. It's you go into the season thinking anyone could win this. Like any one of 12 teams could win this. It's such a tight comp. And on the last day, everyone plays at the same time. So the last round.
Yeah.
So there's 8 teams that are potentially going into the top 4. And I think we might have played Wasps at home. And with 3 or 4 minutes to go in our game, we were sitting 7th on the live table. So the table's live. So anyone that's watching it from home or, online, you can see the live table updating as the scores are live. And Tom Van Dale was one of our wingers, played for England. He scored a try in the last couple of minutes, and that put us into 4th. And then we're waiting on other results to go our way. Yeah. And I think London Irish went up to Sale and beat Sale. Yeah, they
did
beat
you a
Sale.
favour?
Yeah, did us a favour.
Wow.
Yeah, and they weren't expected to do that. So then we snuck into 4th, and then we beat Gloucester, who finished 1st. We went down to Kingsholm and beat Gloucester. Yeah. Andy Good kicked the drop goal in the last minute.
Yeah.
And then we're in the big dance at Twickenham, which we lost. We lost to Wasps in that game. So it was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, far out, some good memories. And one thing that I saw about you, I'm not sure if it was true, but did you have a turkey Cooper? I remember seeing something with you and Ben Herring. You dressed as a turkey and you could speak turkey.
Not really my style, that sort of stuff. It's a little bit out of my comfort zone. I'm a pretty private guy. Even podcasts, mate. I think this is the second podcast or third podcast I've ever done.
Wow.
Normally like to keep things pretty private. Don't mind playing a guitar and having a sing-song, but the turkey one was, Ben had harassed me. And for those who know Ben Herring, he's a beautiful man. He's pretty left field though. He's got some pretty crazy ideas, and because he's a good mate of mine, he managed to convince me it was going to be a good idea. So he comes round home and he's given me all these outfits and I just need you to put this on, and then just go with the flow. Just come with me. Yeah. And that was pretty much the way that Jamie lives life. Go with the flow, and so I'm going with the flow with him in this little chicken coop with a turkey thing on, eating raw eggs, and then it went viral for a little bit. So it's a little bit like the front flip. Yeah. So my advice would be don't do it.
Career regrets.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned your back and the trouble that was giving you. Was that basically the reason why you retired and you finished?
Yeah, the last year was pretty tough.
Yeah.
I love the club. The club were amazing. They really looked after me, and they would fly me to Germany. Flew me over there 3 times to have sort of special treatment and get all the specialist advice, and which was a little bit mixed. But I was probably struggling mentally with it as well at the time. Like I would get back up and I'd play, and then something would go, like a pop a groin or a hamstring, just the pressures that were coming from the back, and just that cycle of, I'm good to go, and then something breaks again. I was having cortisol epidurals as well. So cortisone, epidurals in my back. Yeah. So the first one was a caudal epidural. So they go up from the bottom of the spine and inject cortisone into there to flush all the debris and the tightness and that. And then I was having them every 3 months. You can only have them 3 months apart. Yeah. And I was having epidural lumbar ones where they sort of poke it through the spine to the sac, and then try and do the same thing. Right. So it was sort of relieving the symptoms for a bit. And then I'd be okay to train, but then obviously wasn't fixing the problem, the problem. So I'd be good for maybe a couple of weeks and play a game here or there, and then start to break down. It got pretty bad in the end. And then I remember we played against Northampton in a game over there, and I was running around, and I was been on the emotional roller coaster. And I was running down the sideline trying to chase one of the Northampton forwards, and I just had nothing in my leg, and it was sort of, it was like I was dragging along the ground, and I pretty much put my hand up and walked off the field, and I knew before I crossed the chalk that was it.
Career done.
Yeah, at the time. So had a chat to the coach the next day, gave him a call and said, look, this is where I'm at. And they could feel it and sort of see it coming as well. But they were just so supportive. I was really lucky. They kept me on for the rest of the year. I did a bit of coaching. I did some coaching certificates as well over there. Still had a big part to play with the side. They were outstanding. So sort of helped the transition, ease the blow a little bit. And then we packed up and come back to New Zealand. Was
that always a passion of yours, coaching, or was that always something you thought you'd get into?
No, I didn't think I'd coach, but it was probably the influence that my coaches had on me, just as a player and also as a person. Often tell the story about Steve Hansen coming around after matches or after the game, making sure your fingernails were cut and they were clean, and your tie was tied up properly and your shoes were polished, because he knew that your nana was going to be at the aftermatch, and all those little things were just more than rugby. it's just about becoming a good man, and I just really enjoyed and appreciated all the work that had gone on, and it's been such an amazing experience being around good people like that. Smithy was another one. He showed his care by providing millions of clips for you, and just the detail in your game, anything he could do to make you better. Robbie was great at creating an environment for the team and really driving team culture and that. So there's just so many gifts.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool what these guys get to do.
Yeah.
So towards the end of my career, I always had a bit of a rugby brain on me. I think that was probably one of my strengths. So I was sort of encouraged to give it a crack. And mate, I love it. I love being involved. If it wasn't coaching, I did some commentary for a couple of years with Sky. Like I just love being involved in sports and the game of rugby. Owe a lot to the game, so try and give back where you can.
Yeah, and like so many of the guys that you've played with, or the guys in your teams, have all gone on to become quality coaches. Like you put that down to basically the coaches that coach them, and I guess that's what it comes down to, really. Eh?
Yeah, I think so. I think you become a product of that environment, and just good people, good people, good values, and they just show you a way. It's not necessarily the way, but they show you a way of being, and you mix that with all your other experiences and the other things that have shaped your lens on life, and try and package it up and be yourself.
And hardest adjustment for you going into coaching? What was the biggest sort of difference for you, or toughest challenge?
Probably not being able to do it.
Yeah.
Just here, give me the ball, and
I'll show you.
Yeah. So you got to learn how to teach.
Yeah.
You got to understand the learning loop, the performance loops, planning, doing, reviewing, breaking the skill down, understanding different personalities, different ways of learning. So there's just so much more to it. And then the work on top of that, like playing's easy.
Yeah.
Like when you're talking to players now, a thing about retirement, I'm like, mate, you play as long as you can. As long as you're enjoying the game, keep playing.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat that feeling when you're in a great side around great people who really care for you, and they're getting the best out of you, and you're able to test that on the world stage, or on the higher stage week in, week out. For me, you're alive.
Yeah.
You're alive in that moment, in those moments afterwards, when you can sit and look each other in the eye and without saying anything, but you might know you've given it everything. It's a pretty special feeling, and it's hard to replicate when you don't, when you finish playing. It's such a high. So I try and encourage players to look after themselves. Probably the players are a lot more equipped these days around looking after themselves from a professional point of view. So that would be my advice to all young rugby players now: look after your body. Like it's your biggest asset. Look after your mind. Stay strong and keep yourself healthy and play for as long as you can, because it's the best job in the world.
Yeah. Can you replicate that sort of feeling from coaching? Do you get that same feeling in the changing room if you feel like you've nailed your week, or the boys have had a really good performance? Do you get that same thing, or can't quite?
Yeah, similar. Like it's when you've been working with a player, or when you're working with a unit, and you see that come off in a game, wow, there it is, Now we're reading the pictures, now we understand, we're feeling the game, and then we're executing under pressure in the moment, and it's happening consistently. But that's actually how we felt in the weekend with the Fijian boys. So we just played Japan in the final, over in Japan in the PNC. And we knew it was going to be a grind in the first half. So we mapped out the plan to take a bit of sting out of their game, because they're phenomenal starters. They just blow everyone away with their speed in the first 20 minutes. And we thought if we can at least have parity in the first 20 minutes, we should be able to get the job done, or be able to create enough opportunities towards the back end of the game to get the job done. And it just rolled out the script, And we didn't nail everything 100%, but we controlled the game really well. And then the last 30 minutes, we put them away, and the boys were having fun. So we're talking about, the intensity, making sure we bring the intensity that we need, and going again, but also playing with joy on your face. And that was probably one of those moments when I saw the last couple of tries we scored, and the smiles on the face, and the boys realising that, man, this is all the hard work over 5 weeks coming to fruition. So it was a pretty special feeling. Yeah.
Well, mate, so you mentioned the Fijian side. It's such a talented group that you're working with there. Eh? Like, it must be pretty exciting to be attacking coach of a side with so much natural flair and ability.
Yeah. Oh, scary.
Yeah.
It's scary, the potential in these boys. But you certainly don't have to worry about doing offloading drills and all that sort of stuff, because the boys grow up playing no touch in the villages, so they know how to do that. It's just instinctive, and they've got such a good feel for it. Probably it's the understanding of how to build pressure when it's not on.
Yeah.
Then don't throw it. So just going through some of those basic principles. But there's that's probably the challenge, to be fair, is making sure we don't spoil that natural, beauty of the game, the essence of Fijian rugby, by being too structured, but having enough structure that allows our boys to understand how to break a game down and really put the squeeze on teams when you've got them under the pump, and then use that little bit of fairy dust that the boys have already got in them to finish them off. So, it's an exciting challenge.
Yeah. Rugby World Cup insights, is that sort of the goal for a side like Fiji, to win a Rugby World Cup?
Oh, definitely one day.
Yeah.
I think everyone's pretty realistic. There's still a wee way to go. But I think in terms of the biggest asset we have is the players.
Yeah.
Like, it's just such an amazing player pool. Like, we took a squad of 28 to the Pacific Nations, or a squad of 30 in the end. There's another 40 guys in the world, around the world, if not more, that could be playing for the Flying Fijians now.
Yeah.
We had a youngish sort of side in the PNC, but there's a lot more experience that we can tap into for later on in the year. And then the challenge for the coaching side is trying to whittle that down to 33 players in 2027. So certainly 2027 is in sight.
Yeah.
It's just how we get there is going to be really important. So we're best prepared to give the team best chance of going as far as we can. They've been to the quarterfinals a few times, never been through to a semi-final. So that's certainly something I think we're capable of.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of hard work. There's some pretty awesome teams at the moment in that top sort of five.
Oh, it's so even, isn't it? Like,
it's
games are won by such small margins, and it's exciting. 2027 in Australia. Yeah. With a side with so much talent and a coach with so much talent to unleash them.
Good coaching staff. Like Mick's done he's done a great job, big job, taking that on. He's obviously got the experience being with the Drua, and you've got Seremaya Bai, who's played for the Flying Fijians.
Yeah.
He's grown. He's an outstanding coach, and he just keeps getting better and better. We've got Graham Jews, who also played for the Flying Fijians. Yeah. Fantastic support staff. David Sylvester, who's with England for about 6 years, is the head of S&C. Phenomenal. He's world class. So I think it showed in the weekend where our boys were at physically, and just how far they've come. Like, to finish strong over top of a fit Japanese team was a testament to the programming and the work that a guy like that's put in, and his offside of Josh McElroy. So there's some good things happening there.
That's cool. And when you've done so much coaching, you've been in different teams, like we said at the start, the highs and lows. You've had some pretty brutal exits from teams in the past. Like, how hard are those to sort of go through and, I guess, start moving on to the next thing?
Yeah, it's like any setback in life, eh? Once it's done, it's done. I suppose. Like, I've been extremely fortunate to have been given some tools to deal with, those tricky periods. Probably the tough part is the impact that it has on everybody. Family,
friends, everything. Yeah.
So I think my family have probably been more upset than me when, Leicester was hard. Like, I went over there and we gave it everything. We moved the family there. You pour your heart into it, and I loved playing there. I loved the place. We really enjoyed living in our little village up in Kibworth. So, and then you give everything to the players and the program, and sometimes you just don't align. You just don't get it right, and there's other things outside of your control going on. So, I think context is important. But I remember telling my son, Felix, he's my oldest boy, and I just remember the look on his face. He was just devastated,
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, your wife's devastated. She's like, "Oh shit, what does that mean for us now?" We've got to pack up our bags, and
it's hard,
tough. And then, but I just remember the look on my son's face, because he was just so invested as well, and really enjoyed living over in the UK and had all his mates, and it probably goes a bit internal around what does this mean for me. But that stuff's tough. But yeah. It's like life, you crack on and you try and find some positives and look forward, and lucky enough I was able to do that, and the NZAU were a big help. they reached out straight away, and Roger Clark got on the phone and talked about potentially an opening at the Highlanders somewhere, probably as an assistant coach. Brownie was coaching at the time because Jamie had just left to Japan, and Scott McLeod was in the coaching staff down there, so probably one of those guys was going to head coach and was going to slip into that coaching team somewhere, and I'm happy to do that. And then Brownie ended up signing to go to Japan, coach the Sunwolves in Japan, and Stormy ended up with the All Blacks.
Yeah.
So ended up head coaching the Highlanders, and another great experience. Really enjoyed that. Different to Crusaders, different to Leicester.
Yeah.
Different to other rugby experiences I had. Probably a bit more laid back. Probably still a bit of the residual sort of Scarfy, Otago sort of culture and environment. But I learnt so much down there as well, and we've had some great experiences. We only just moved back up to Christchurch last year as a family, and a great place to raise kids, and the kids actually, especially my younger ones, they consider themselves. People ask where they're from, they sort of still say Dunedin.
Oh, do they?
So they might just be turning back into Cantabs now. But I had some great experiences down there, and coached alongside some good people and worked with some good people and coached some amazing players. You got to get to work with Aaron Smith and Ben Smith and Ash Dixon and those guys. Highlanders legends have given so much to the club. Was once again pretty awesome.
Yeah, and then how does a experience like Moana Pasifika compare to all those other ones?
Yeah, it's very unique. I absolutely loved it. It was such a privilege to be able to do that role. I'm an underdog. I come from Littleton, and my heart has a real affinity towards people in need of something, some support, and that was certainly the journey with Moana Pasifika. We were starting from very, very little foundation in terms of resources and experience, but so much richness and cultural capital. And obviously through my own links with my nan coming from the Pacific Islands, and her journey was probably a mirror of what we're trying to achieve with Moana Pasifika. You had to be brave and show courage and make some big calls and know that it wasn't going to be easy, and that you're going to have to fight for everything you got. And I enjoy that challenge. I enjoy those challenges, and just to see the joy on people's faces. Like when the license was agreed, when the license was granted by New Zealand, to see the dream of Sir Brian Williams, come to life. He'd been trying to get a Samoan team in Super Rugby for 27 years. I remember sitting down with him at Eden Park in the Barbarians Lounge, and he just poured his heart out around how much it meant to him, and how long he'd been campaigning to have a Pacific Island team in the competition. So that was pretty special to see Michael Jones as well. So Michael Jones, Lowly, his just the fulfillment, that now we can actually do something, and it was a long time coming. You think of the impact that Pacific Island players have had on the game, in particular in New Zealand, for the benefit of either the All Blacks or the Crusaders or the Chiefs or one of the franchises or the provinces. Now having the ability to be able to do that for our own people, pretty special. And I think it's growing. Like you look at the signing of Artie, and that attracting more quality, high-end Pacific Island players back to Moana Pasifika is huge. It's only going to get better. And the Drua have showed, the Drua have had a side for about 8 or 9 years now. Obviously played in the Australian sort of competition, and then sort of transitioned into the Super Rugby. So they're a wee way down the track in terms of the infrastructure and the development pipeline. But that's slowly starting to come for Moana now, and have Artie's profile, and obviously Julian went there last year, and you had Christian and Sakopi, the 2 years prior. You got some legends really pumping their energy and their hearts into the project. So it was a huge privilege to be a part of for a couple of years, and to get them off the ground.
Yeah, well, it looked like such a cool culture, and one clip that always I get reminded of, especially with your time there, was when you got Jim Tavatava Nawai's mum over. It's such a
powerful clip of him seeing his mum for the first time, and just the culture, everyone's singing and all that side of things. But it's pretty special moments like that.
Yeah, look, we wanted to do something special for Jim. Unfortunately, with COVID, the way that it was at the time, and Jim's father passing away, he wasn't able to get back to bury his father and be around the family at that side. So, man, that must have been tough. I've lost my father, so I knew what it was like.
Yeah.
And then we also had issues with Jim's visa, so he couldn't play the first 7 rounds. And he was training so hard, ready for the opportunity, and we legally couldn't give it to him until he had the visa, so we could actually, employ him properly and pay him. Fortunately, Sir Michael Jones was able to pull a few strings and speed that process up, and then we were able to select him.
Yeah.
We wanted to make it a really memorable experience for him and his family, and involve his family where we could. So our manager at the time, Ramsey Tomakino, did a great job in connecting with his mum and getting her out, getting her passport, getting her out to New Zealand, and being a part of that first week that Jim made his debut for Moana. So, one of the special experiences you come across, and his mum's so grateful for that opportunity. We connect still to this day.
Yeah, it's crazy.
She's very grateful, and pretty awesome experience.
Yeah, I think that's such a cool part of rugby, as those connections that you make with people all around the world, and you've been coaching, playing all around the world, and you have so many connections with different people from your experiences.
Yeah, it's amazing, really. Like, it's just the game opens up so many doors for you to have some great experiences and connect with some amazing people. And like most of the people you come across in rugby, probably 99.9% are just absolute champions. You know, like we're all connected to the game and the spirit of the game. So we're very fortunate that it's helped us travel the world and have all these experiences.
100%. That's basically why I set this podcast up, because there's so many lads in the game, like you go around, you sometimes have an opinion of someone from watching them on the TV, you meet them and you're like, oh man, he is actually just such a champion, eh?
Oh, absolutely. It was funny, and I won't name names, but I was talking to a fella last year or a couple of years ago, and he was talking about one of our Crusader players he'd always had a perception of. Yeah. And then they, once they retired, they went on a classic All Blacks tour, and he goes, oh, mate, I met him, and he was just an absolute champion. He'd be one of my best mates, I reckon. So, I suppose that's a bit of the Crusader lens too, a little bit like when I was growing up, it's how Cantabs viewed Aucklanders. Yeah. It's, just that perception that comes with, part of that identity, I suppose. But, like right across the game, there's a common thread, and that's the love of the game and what the game stands for. So, I think we chose the right game to be involved in, Jimmy.
Yeah, 100%. And I get that feedback all the time. Like people message and say, "Oh, I had an opinion of this guy. Wasn't going to listen to it because I didn't think I'd like him, but listen to it, and man, like you say, could be my best mate. Like, love that guy now. Follow his career so differently. So, it's the beauty of being able to get people on here like yourself and share your story, because man, this has been one of the greatest episodes ever so far in Red 9 Studios. But we have gone to our Instagram for some questions, and plenty came in for you. I'll start with the first one. Did he pump the Scribe Crusader song back in the day?
Yeah, it did. That was a bit of a shock. Like we never knew we were going to be a part of that. Yeah. But how good. Local hometown Phillipstown boy rocking out some tunes, and it's got all the boys' names in his song. So you're a big fan of Scribe back in the day, and it's good to see him doing well now, back on track and still spreading the word. So it's pretty cool. My kids like it too.
Yeah, tight Dad, like Nathan and Aaron Major.
Yeah, you're a part of a song, Dad, when they first come across it. So it's a cool part of the legacy. Yeah,
very cool. Okay, worst player to get in a fight with that you played with?
Worst player to get in a fight with? Not that I ever fought him, but probably would have been Chris Marsoe, to be fair. Yeah, I remember watching Chris Marsoe and Jerry Collins box at training, and they'd always do that for conditioning, off-feet conditioning. Those guys would be going at it, normally on the pads, but then if they wanted to have a bit of a body shot, I'm thinking, no, I don't know if I'd like to take one of those from one of those fellas. We used to do a lot of boxing with the Crusaders with Aaron McCullum pre-season. Used to build up to 12 3-minute rounds. So you go from fighting a Leon McDonald or a back, and then you've got to fight Brad Thorne for 3 minutes, and you get absolutely mauled, and that would ruin you for the rest of the time. So good conditioning, eh?
Did you just have to switch partners? Just find a partner, was it?
Yeah, so you had 12 different partners for those 12 3 rounds. So you get mauled by a big fella, and then you go and have to fight one a little, and you'd have nothing left. So you're just getting tapped by a Ben Blair on the head because Brad Thorne's taken everything out of you the round before.
Oh, that's good stuff. Okay. Favourite centre partner?
Well, that's a real tough one. I'd probably have to say my brother.
Yeah.
Like, it was a dream come true, playing alongside each other for the Crusaders, getting named in the All Blacks. We never actually got to wear the All Black jersey together. He played in the midweek team, and I played in the Test team on that tour. But it was pretty special playing alongside him. I remember we were just calling touch moves off the cuff, out on the field in the game, and we really used to enjoy the challenges against other All Black midfielders.
Yeah.
Look each other in the eye and say, we've got this, and
cool.
There's one guy you want having your back, it's your brother.
Yeah. Well, that was the next question. What was it like playing with your brother? But you've answered that. Okay. Hardest challenge you had as a player or a coach?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think as you get older, you look at all your setbacks as opportunities to learn and grow. So probably retiring. Yeah. I retired at 30. Like I always thought, a bit like Peter Pan, you live forever and play the game forever, That was tough. It was a tough last year, like just the ups and downs, the emotional ups and downs of getting the body right and then breaking down again and getting it right. And then you're looking at your future. Can I sign another contract? Am I going to go back and have a crack at the World Cup in New Zealand, or do I stay at Leicester and try and play another 3 to 5 years here, or even longer? So there's lots going on, and I'm 30, you're still a young man, and you're still trying to work out life. And we've got 2 young kids at the time, Felix and Zoe, and you're away from home. So there's so many things going on. Yeah. And I wouldn't have had absolute clarity. So I was really lucky that I had so many good people around me to help work through that and work through the transition. And the club were fantastic as well. So that's probably definitely the toughest challenge when the game comes to an end as a player. Yeah. The good thing about being as a coach, you don't need your body, so you can probably coach forever.
Well, I love your mindset around the challenges that you've had. It's always about bouncing and finding that next opportunity and looking at the positives. And I'm guessing you've learnt that through your rugby career, but such a powerful tool for people to have in all forms of life.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. There's setbacks everywhere. Yeah. I think it's easy for rugby players to prove more effective because it's in the public eye. Like the level of scrutiny now is so high. Even when I was playing, that you didn't have social media, so you just had the media guys having a crack at you, you know. And they were pretty tame, to be fair, back then. Now it's every man and his dog wanting to have a crack, and that's not necessarily because they want to bring you down. Maybe some of them do, but normally because people care. New Zealand, I always say New Zealand's got a country of 5 million coaches. Yeah. So I'm not the only one coaching the game. There's 5 million other critics out there. It's because we care. It's our national game, and people want to see our teams do well.
Yeah, geez, I like that. Okay, 2 more. Hardest player to tackle?
Yeah, probably it was Tana Umaga. Just such good feet, run such great lines. Sterling Mortlock was another one. Yeah. So they're 2 guys that, because I was 12 and they were 13s, they were sort of coming down my channel a lot. And if you didn't get them square, it was tough. You're tackling them with your fingernails, just holding onto a jersey somewhere. And then when Nonu come along, like he was tough. But the toughest guy for me would have been, and it's probably because he made me look silly a couple of times, was Rupini Thauvau Namuka. I remember we played a game, and you can show this on your highlights reel.
Here we go, we've got a clip.
We played against the Blues, I think it was 2004 at Jade Stadium.
I remember the game.
And he ran around me twice, or ran through me and around me twice, and just made me look like a school kid. So, yeah, he was probably the toughest.
He was a freak though, eh? Like, man, he had the speed, power, swerve.
It was like watching Christian Cullen glide and step and change direction at pace with Jonah Lomu's power. Yeah. So that was a pretty unreal combination of speed, strength and power. But when he was on top of his game, he was untouchable. Yeah.
And now you're coaching heaps of Rupenis over in Fiji.
There's certainly plenty of those. I'm not sure if any of them are quite at that level that he was at, but you go back through his highlight reel. It's a little bit like when you go back through Cully's highlight reel. You know, they're just hard to pick a winner out of all those tries
and
or
yours.
feats. Yeah, not as many. Yeah, I was more the guy setting them up. Yeah, probably all those 56 tries that Caleb Ralph scored. He only had to run them in, didn't he? There's all the boys inside him doing the work. Hope you're listening too, Ralphie.
Okay, last question. Best piece of advice for a Woodlad listener?
Yeah, I think just embrace life's journey. Be yourself. Be comfortable in your own skin, and just enjoy the journey.
I love that. What a way to finish. One of the best podcasts, mate. Really appreciate you coming on, giving up your time. And I know you haven't been a big podcast man, but I'm grateful to get you in the studio for the first time and go through your journey. Incredible story. Some of the things that you've been through and done has been pretty special. You're a true legend of the game in New Zealand. I know how highly regarded you are in the Crusaders environment as well, like legend of that side, and boys have so much respect for you. So it's been awesome having you on and going through your story, mate.
Absolute pleasure, Jimmy, and keep up the good work, mate. Doing a great job here.
You're a lad.